Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about when is the best time to look for and get a job at one of the Amazon warehouses specifically. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jackie and we are enjoying life's journey. A few years ago, I posted a video about how to get hired at one of the Amazon warehouses. So if you are interested in getting a job at one of the warehouses and you've already watched that video and you've been looking for jobs, I've had a lot of comments on that video saying, Jackie, there's nothing available. Every time I look, there's no jobs, there's nothing to find. Then this video is going to be for you because hopefully some of these tips will help you to know when to look and get a job at one of the Amazon warehouses. So I'm not going to repeat and show everything that I showed on that video. You can go back and watch it after this one if you want. I'll link it at the end of this video. But basically the website that you would be going to look for a job at one of the warehouses would be hiring.amazon.com. And you're going to plug in your zip code. Now, my first tip as into finding a job, I may or may not have mentioned it in the video before, is try not to put too many filters on your search. So you don't want to narrow it down to a very small search because you're most likely not going to find something. You want to broaden your search, even to the point sometimes I will broaden the mileage to 100 miles away. Am I really going to travel 100 miles to go work at Amazon? No. But it's a good way to see if there are indeed some types of jobs posted within your state. Now, one of the disclaimers I do have to give, and I actually hate the word disclaimers, so we're just going to say one of the things is basically if you live in a smaller area and there's not as many Amazon warehouse buildings, then you are going to have a little bit more trouble finding a job versus somewhere like where I live. I happen to live in Arizona. We have a lot of warehouses in the Phoenix area and outside of the Phoenix area, which we call the Valley. I live on the west side of Phoenix. I'm not in the center of the valley. I'm not in Phoenix, but I'm on the outskirts on the west side. But they've been building more and more warehouses out where I'm at. So some of the warehouses that I'm referring to are going to be things like your fulfillment centers, your sort centers, your delivery stations, and then sometimes you have like lockers type buildings, or you might even have like I believe it's Whole Foods or something like that that you can get hired to work at. And then there are other fulfillment centers that deal with larger items, your extra large type items, things like that. So you're using bigger equipment and things. So you have a different variety of warehouses. So again, I wouldn't limit your search to only sort centers. I would look at everything that's out there. From there, then you can kind of decide how close do you want it to be. So that's my first tip as far as actually looking on the website and trying to find something that's available. Now, the best time to look is going to be about 3 different times during the year are going to be like the really high hiring seasons. So a lot of you may or may not have heard of Prime Week, right? So we actually have Prime Week in July. So usually about June, they're going to do a lot of hiring to get people trained and ready for that Prime Week that's in July. So that's the first month, I would say, out of the year that you're going to see the most volume. So another thing is they've added a second Prime Week. I believe it's in September, October. I could be wrong because we just finished it. So they're going to start hiring August, September. They're going to start hiring again for that second Prime Week that we have going on. Again, they need to get people trained and ready for the volume that comes in. And then the last time is going to be our peak season. So a lot of people think of this with other jobs as like your holiday season. So we don't have a holiday season of only 2 months, maybe November, December. Our peak season can last 4 or 5 months. So they start hiring for peak season, sometimes even as early as August, September, like I mentioned, because they're also hiring for prime. But mostly, I've usually gotten on in October, and that's for that peak season. So right now, I'm filming this on November 3rd. We've just been notified. I'm currently, for those of you who've been watching the channel, you know I've worked at 7 different Amazons. The last video I made, I was actually trying out a delivery station because it was only about 5 miles from my house. I have since gone back to the fulfillment center that I was at before, which is about a 30-minute drive, because I liked that building better. I liked the position, the job that I've done there a lot more. So I can make a separate video about all the jobs and positions I've done at the different warehouses. But sometimes driving a little farther is better if you like your job, because then you're not dreading going to work, or you're not trying to leave early all the time, and you actually enjoy the job. Honestly, I only liked half of my shift at the delivery station, which is a whole nother story. Sorry, a little tangent there. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so we just been notified that coming up, they are no longer going to be accepting requests for vacation time. So that tells us we're starting to get into our peak season. I've seen a lot of new hires coming through the building. So now is the time to start looking for those jobs and to actually apply for the jobs. The other tip I have is, if you go on to hiring.amazon.com, is set up your account ahead of time. Because if you do happen to find a job at a location and it happens to be a shift, the hours and the days and things that will work with you, and you go to hit apply and you don't have an account yet, you're going to have to take that time to set up that account. And by the time you're done, that position will probably be gone. So positions go very, very fast. When is the best time to look for jobs? Like I mentioned, your prime weeks and your peak season, but honestly, all the time. You want to be looking all the time if you're serious about getting a job at Amazon. You might get hired on an off chance, on a random whim, because they had a turnover happen and they needed to get some people in the door. So you always want to be checking. You always want to be refreshing it. You want to have your filters open, just to make sure that there are definitely warehouses and job opportunities within your state. And then from there, you can kind of narrow things down. But basically, you're looking at June is a really good time that you're going to get hired. End of August, September, October, those are going to be really big hiring times. They do even still hire in November as well. Now, if you're getting hired on, most of the time these are seasonal positions. They will automatically convert you into what they call a blue badge, or an actual employee, when they have the availability for that. If you're not interested in being converted, that's the only time you would reach out and say, oh, nope, I'm not interested in being converted. But you'd be notified ahead of time if they were doing any conversions from a seasonal employee to a regular employee. Now, my particular situation, I have never been let go from Amazon after a peak or a prime season. I've always been kept on. But I have heard of in other states that sometimes they do lay you off. So the tip I have for you is just go to work, put your phone away, and actually work. Even if you're not making rate, if your quality is good and they see that you're constantly working and you're not messing around on your phone, or you're not sitting there talking to your neighbor all day, then most likely they're going to leave you alone and they're not going to do anything. The other thing is your attendance, making sure you're always there. Use your paid time off and your unpaid time off, or your approved time off, your vacation hours, whatever they call it in your area. Use those wisely, and you'll be good to stay on to be converted to an actual employee. Sometimes they'll post a position that is an actual employee position right off the gate. I haven't had the chance of seeing that, or actually doing that, because usually those were the full-time positions. I've always done part-time. So like I mentioned, I am back at a fulfillment center. I'm back finally in the department that I want to be back in, and next weekend I'm finally going to get retrained in the position that was my favorite position, which is called sort flow. So again, I'll make another video about all the positions in the different places I've worked, and what my least favorite and my favorite is and why, and hopefully that will help you guys. I hope this video helped you, especially for those of you who have been reaching out saying, Jackie, I cannot find a job. There are no jobs available in my area. Hopefully these tips help you out and you can find something if you haven't found anything yet, or if you're still even looking. So leave a comment down below if you have other tips or suggestions, if I've missed anything, or if you have any additional questions. But as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.